Hello my friends, and welcome to the second video material about painting the Reconnect miniature. As I told you earlier, I wanted to work more on the whole body, so you can see that like I've painted more of it, like of all the details here on the body, on this leg, but I left that leg just for us to start painting, like to paint more of it. The colors are the same. So from the second previous material, so I will try to just like to work on the small elements. Yeah, I've put more of the like dark black like that line in the middle. I will finish those details a little later. I will leave some of those lines like probably mostly black, but here some details should be painted, and I will probably add some like bluish coloration, bluish light to it, because like I think it's like more interesting. So let's start working. We have that like, I hope it's visible here. Maybe it will be better right like this. I have a problem with the palette because like I've organized the colors so that it's harder to pick. Maybe like this would be okay for you. So I have that like mixture of skin tone, violet, and like the blue here. And I will try to like color those elements here. I told you that like the bottom part of the miniature will be more blue. Probably it will be more ocean blue or something like this, but in the end when I paint the water I can change it a little, yeah? I left a lot of the elements black. I think like for this miniature, to keep her like synthetic or something like this, it's interesting to like apply that like some of the elements that are completely like different than a skin tone. Some parts look cool, that's when it's like looks a little like skin tone, and some parts are, I think, like more interesting. I hope like you can see it, because like I've changed the position. Sorry for this. Yeah, so we'll paint some elements here, just on the bottom part here, that where is more shadow. I'm like trying to apply more shadow. Here I forgot like a piece of black, so we'll take a little. So those are some elements that should be black, just forgot to color them. Here that border, it will be the same like the here, just like a slightly visible. And somewhere here in the middle. Like it's better to do those like black elements like from the start. It's like a detail that is like deeper on the sculpt. And now it's just better. I've like overpainted one of the elements of the armor, but it's not a problem at this point, yeah? Here also we can fill it with that black, so it's easier at this moment, yeah? Then like when painting something later on, when painting the elements, we could like of course modify it, but yeah, we don't want to right now. I think I overdone like this color here. Like I know it's hidden in the shadows, yeah. Also part of the breast here is not painted. Forgot it, yeah. But I have to do it. It's hidden in the shadow, and I'm imagining it like being like illuminated by the light source. But here you can see some inconsistency, yeah. So I will probably color more of it like with the normal skin tone color, and make like a something like this, yeah, like that part where it's like through the whole body, like then it's combining, yeah. Here it should be a little more in the shadow, but when glazing it with the skin tones, I think it should be okay. So I think I will do it later on. Hope it's like. I'm using manual focus, like trying to experiment with it. Yeah, and we have that like bluish shadow here That's something that we like started to like sketch. Yeah, and now let's maybe just a little more, maybe here on that like element. Let's paint that separation of the leg and the material here. Yeah, something like this. And start like maybe working on those details. I will try to work on the whole piece, but sometimes it's better to just like go into the detail and just like blend it all. Have to watch out for those separation lines, just not to like cover them with the normal color of the of this part. Here there should be more separation. I didn't sketch it. So it's interesting because like we have a line here and the second line here, just like that shape. It's harder to fish out. It's a very small detail, honestly, and here even like didn't cover that well. We can make it like darker. Yeah, something like this. Just to show that separation of the armor plates. Sorry, body plates. Like, I don't know if it's armor. And here we have the same. Have to watch out not to touch the other leg. That would be a bummer, because I would have to like fix it later on, and it's not like I don't want to add more work to it. Yeah. Okay. Maybe a little more medium. This paint is too thick. You can see that it starts to instantly like run on the surface. So I think the control about the like consistency of paint and regarding what you're painting and like what you want to achieve, it's a key element as always. So I'm trying just to like cover with more of the paint. Maybe it's more like a refined sketch or something like this, but still we are like building a basis. Then we can like work on each several like a separate plate, and then just like blend it all better. Hope it focuses. And now we can like start working on detail, like just to make it cover, to just like to polish the cleanness of those lines of those like body panels. You can see that there's like a difference that I'm like trying to cover here. So we can go back to the previous tone and just blend it a little. So from the front view you can see that like this part of the leg will have more highlight, yeah, and here this part. So here we want to build up a little more light, but here this part should be in the shadow. So always try to rotate the miniature, look at it at different angles. This will help you to visualize the light falling on the sculpture, yeah? I've already touched this part, unfortunately. So it's always like I was talking, sometimes if you want to blend you have to push the brush a little stronger, yeah? So it bends, it covers more surface, you don't paint with the tip. Sometimes you can like dilute the paint a little more, so also like has different properties. So that's why I keep the medium on my palette, just sometimes take a little of it and just like dilute the paint to a glaze consistency, and you can see it starts to cover. Yeah, of course like it's a lot of like pushing from each direction, so sometimes we have to go back just to like blend it a little. This was too dark, so we can take a little of that brighter color. Yeah. It would be probably easier to paint like each plate separately, so have that faster blending, yeah? And as always, as I told you, that I don't clean the brush too often. Sometimes if I want to take a drastically different tone, then I will do clean the brush, but most of the time jumping from one tone to the other and like them being close, I don't clean the brush. Yeah, I think it's not needed. Unfortunately, some hair from the tissue just got on my brush. Yeah. You can, I think, clean out. Sorry for this line. Okay, make it more clear. And the bottom part we have to just highlight a little, or just like cover this part, so you have that like clean line. And at the end here, I will want to make a little darker in general, as it's further from the light source, but also like it's closer to the water, so maybe I'll color it a little, change the temperature of it, so that it like it's more like closer to the whole ambience of the water reflecting light. Sometimes things in my painting are realistic, sometimes they are more like interpretation. Like a part to show some mood. I think it's a lot of like creative choices that someone takes, and sometimes even doesn't think about it, like his like style approach like influences the whole process. So I always like try to think about this in those terms. Sometimes the outcome is a little different than you plan. Sometimes it's just like your skills, like your preferences, your like habits take over. But also like it makes it easier, maybe a little repetitive, yeah. So as always, I try to work on the whole food, but I think it's like it would be too sketchy, so we want a little more finish. I want to show you a little more of the technique. As always, probably you've seen it already, yeah, in different videos of mine, but yeah, too much medium. You can see it like that. The paint doesn't want to dry instantly, yeah. So it's like I've took too much. I have a bigger brush, so it soaks in more medium. So I will have to like start working on a different element just to leave it to dry. We could wet blend it a little, yeah, but As you can see, let's, I think, start working with this color, but in a pure form. Now it's too thick. Yeah? You can clearly see that the paint, like it's too thick. Yeah? That's like the tricky part of it. Yeah? Sometimes you have the paint too thick, sometimes you have the paint too thin. I've used this palette like yesterday, so the paint has a weird consistency. If you leave the paint for a day on your wet palette, so at first it has a lot of moisture, but then the moisture evaporates very quickly, and then you have to add it and keep on adding it. It's not the same paint that like you take from the bottle. Like the proportions, the medium evaporated, the proportions are a little different. So it can be tricky, but sometimes I leave the paint because like I want to use it the next day, as I don't want to mix the colors all over again. Yeah, sometimes you have to, but I think most of the time, if you can paint with them for several days, at least when they aren't that dry or there's like still more of the pigment left. Yeah. So we are like slowly working on making it brighter. I would add a little water to the paint. You can see that it started to dry too much, and also here the further highlights have the same problem. Still, I like this wet palette, but still I think the Ferrero Rocher one had something unique. I don't know what's the parameter, but the paints don't dry that fast. Honestly, I don't know what changes it. Yeah, but the paints dry slower. You have to take a little of that. I would probably have to add the violet to the palette all over again. But yeah. See, it's now it's better to work with it. Had something like a line where the elements didn't blend that well, so we can fix it. And for such elements, like I think like making lines like this would generate a lot of like the separation. It probably would cover the like surface a little faster, but I think like doing it in this direction, it's better. It blends easier. Yeah, sometimes you have to leave the paint to dry, because like the minute I touch it, you can see that like didn't dry, didn't influence the surface that much. Maybe it's too watery, so it's harder to just like cover. Yeah. Yeah. I won't finish it probably to like the 100%. Probably I would have to like go in and do some like serious blending. But I think you get the point. Like it's a little like pushing it one direction and then the other, and like then just glazing again. And it's weird because like on some elements, like if I would paint materials, it's way easier. If I paint like some shapes like this, like the body shape or something like this, it's more difficult. Yeah, you have to be more consistent with blending, I think. Even no metallic metal, you can make a little more sketchy, or even hair. Yeah, because like the texture influences it, but here it has to be smooth. Yeah. So take a little black. I still keep on like touching this part, just like probably the recess here. It's not that deep, so the brush just touches that like separation and just overpaints it. Yeah, some of those like are a little deeply sculpted. Yeah, sculpted more deep. Yeah, and it's like maybe more difficult to paint in the middle of it. Now that's why like I've painted it like black. And also like this piece is more like special because I intentionally am using like the full-on black. It's of course mixed it a little with blue. It's not like full, just like pure black, but just a little. So like if I would start adding white, it would be a little bluish. But that's something I want to achieve because like later on when I like get on to like finishing some of those like elements in the middle somewhere, yeah, and there will be a little more blue. The same is on the back. You can see this. Yeah, you can see the whole spine of her. So I also have to paint it. Yeah. As you can see, like we can work on the detail a little here. I think that's too much. Okay. Like the medium that I've used started to evaporate, so I don't have that much of it left. As I told you, if I would make like a fresh palette, it would be easier, honestly. But sometimes you just leave a lot of paint on the palette. I don't want to like throw it away, so I keep on using it. Yeah. This part also will be like a key element. Here we should have like a small highlight. It should merge, like this line and this line should merge like very like softly, because here like the whole shape of the leg bends, it's more like cylinder, it's not flat. And I think I've told you like earlier, like many times, that like cylinder, oval shapes are maybe easier, but like cylinder shapes are difficult to paint, like just to blend. Yeah, you have to make a very long blend that it's like rounded. Yeah, and probably like normal traditional painters don't have a problem like this too often, because like it's 2D art. Have to take a little more medium. Put it maybe here so you can see it. But we have like three-dimensional shapes, and we have to paint those so to make it round, to make it like well polished. Yeah. So that's always like a problem. For me, it takes a lot of just time to blend. Yeah, I don't know. How is it for you? Maybe for you, different things are more difficult. I don't know. But sometimes it's easier to blend the face, or like abs or something like this, than to paint like an arm or like a leg, especially like big ones. Yeah. I have to paint like a project, like a bigger project, bigger collector miniature. It's more like a garage kit or something like this. It's a cool one, but I will try to experiment just for myself, just to use more airbrush. I don't imagine myself doing like an airbrushing video material right now. I'm not that good at it, honestly. Probably a lot of you are better than me in airbrushing. But I will try to use this tool a little often, or more often, so maybe it's such shapes, such stuff, it's easier, yeah? Because like you can probably, like when doing it right, you can limit yourself just like to fixing some shadows and just applying highlights, yeah? Or just like adding that nuance. But that's it. Probably the blending would be easier, but I would have to do something like only shading and a solid basis of like a mid-tone, than just painting over it like highlights. Yeah? So you can see it's like slowly starting to be visible. Yeah, we of course need more highlight, but I will start adding it. Of course, I managed to touch that separation line again. think the bright color gets more chunky as I'm using the strong white from Chimera. I thought about using like a gouache white or something like this. It's more transparent, less chalky, but it's also shiny, so I don't know. And also doesn't cover that well. It just adds brightness, yeah, but like lowers the covering properties of the paint. I have to experiment with it. Maybe the colors looks a little more chalky because also like we are lowering the saturation. It's just like bright. Yeah. Yeah. And again it got sketchy. It made a big difference with those highlights. But the whole highlight runs through the whole leg. Maybe putting the medium in that place wasn't a good idea, as I have to move the miniature. So you can see that like it's maybe it looks a little more like a refined sketch, but we have that like placement of light, we have that separation, yeah. So you can just like work on it a little more. But I think like that's mostly it for the knowledge, yeah. And we can at the end show more of that like plate edge. And also like those edges here. Yeah, and probably blending a little more. Yeah, I know it's funny, but it's not. So those like differences we have to cover. I have some problems right now because like the paint started to dry really fast. Like here you can see it's like almost dry. Yeah, even if we added so much water, it's almost dry. So like sometimes the paint here on that palette behaves like weird. I don't know. After a day I can't use it that much. Here we also like butchered those lines. There's too much sketching. Okay, so like now yeah, so this will take a little more, but you can see that that like those two surfaces are very close together. Yeah, so like that's how like I achieved this effect. Yeah, so now I have to just work a little more, just like finish it all. And I think next time I will see you on painting the hair. I will try to finish all those elements of the body. If that's something that is like, we can talk about it. Probably will paint the hair, the materials. I want to paint the hair in a specific way. Also the materials, it should be cool because I will paint like mixing two colors, so making the hair like bluish black and going to white, and the material from white going to violet. So we have like a tonal shift, like black, white, and like here on the bottom of violet going to blue, and we have that blue on the base, and then like the sword, the elements like the flowers. Yeah, so we can like play around with those colors. And as mentioned earlier, that the light from the back will be bluish. Yeah, so it will illuminate her from the back. From the ring, I will make a like oriented light source that just like lights adds that ambient color. Yeah. So yeah, okay. I hope this is like informative, so you can see a little of that technique. Yeah. I was showing a lot of like sketching lately, so it's more like finishing, and you can see how it works. Yeah. It's just like a lot of layers. Yeah. A lot of thin layers and just like going back and forth and just like fixing the transition. I would say now it's like done like on 85%, maybe to 90, but 85 probably, and I have to just go in and just add that more polish. Yeah, so it takes time, but not always. Like it depends on the surface, and if it's like those body parts mostly are more difficult. Yeah, but like other elements, like materials even, like for me are way more easier. Yeah, so it depends. So yeah, like always when I like finish the skin tone, it's like okay, I'm safe, I can like proceed with the whole project, but like this part takes a lot of time. So yeah, have a nice day, and I hope you like that material, and see you next time.